This is the Quiz Fix. I'm Cyril, that's Olivia. One true story per episode, one quiz at the end, because facts you tested on are facts you keep. Here we go. When people picture the 1906 San Francisco earthquake, they often think of a city being shaken to pieces in a single dramatic moment. And yes, that's part of it. But the full story is bigger. The quake, the fires, the response, and then the long, messy, fascinating process of rebuilding.
Right. It happened early in the morning on April 18th, 1906, at about 5:12 a.m. The earthquake was caused by movement along the San Andreas Fault, which is part of the boundary between the Pacific and North American tectonic plates.
And that technical explanation matters, because this was not just some random natural disaster. It was the visible result of plate tectonics doing what plate tectonics does. Though in 1906, of course, scientists did not yet have the modern theory fully developed.
Exactly. Today we can explain the mechanics pretty clearly, but in 1906 people were still figuring out what had happened. The quake ruptured a huge section of the fault, and estimates of the shaking put it around magnitude 7.9 by modern standards.
That number helps, but it's almost hard to make sense of. What really mattered to the people living there was the intensity of the shaking and how long it lasted. Many accounts describe violent motion for roughly half a minute to a minute, which is plenty long enough to bring down buildings, topple chimneys, and rupture gas lines.
And that's where the disaster escalated. The earthquake itself caused terrible damage, but the fires afterward were even more devastating. Broken gas mains, damaged water lines, and a city with limited firefighting water created the perfect conditions for a firestorm.
One of the most important things to understand about the 1906 disaster is that the fire did not begin as one single blaze. There were multiple fires, and firefighters had a hard time controlling them because the water system was shattered. In some places, people used whatever they could find to fight the flames, including dynamite attempts to create fire breaks.
That's one of the grim ironies of the event. In ordinary circumstances, dynamiting buildings can stop fires by removing fuel. But in San Francisco, some of those efforts backfired because they destroyed structures without actually stopping the spread. And with the water supply compromised, there just wasn't enough capacity to contain everything.
The result was catastrophic. Large sections of the city burned over the next 3 days. Estimates of the number of people killed vary, but commonly cited figures are around 3,000 deaths. That makes the 1906 earthquake one of the deadliest natural disasters in US history.
And tens of thousands of people lost their homes. Something like 250,000 residents were left homeless, which was an enormous share of the city's population at the time. So this was not just a downtown disaster or a financial centre disaster. It was a citywide humanitarian crisis.
Exactly. And if you look at photos from the aftermath, what's striking is how often they show not just rubble, but a landscape of survival. People camping in parks, waiting for relief, trying to cook, sleep, and get information. Golden Gate Park and the Presidio became major refugee areas.
The Presidio is interesting because it was a military post, so it became a large, organised relief centre. The US Army played a significant role in maintaining order, distributing supplies, and helping manage the huge displaced population.
There's also the broader question of social response. In disasters, you often see both cooperation and fear, and San Francisco in 1906 was no exception. Many residents, volunteers, and officials worked together, but there were also rumors, looting fears, and harsh measures taken to control the city.
And here we should be careful and factual. Some older popular accounts exaggerated looting or disorder. The real story is more nuanced. there was chaos, but there was also a huge amount of organised effort, mutual aid and resilience. People did not simply sit back and wait for help from above.
That resilience is one reason the reconstruction story is so compelling. The city did not just decide to rebuild the same way it had been. There were debates about the layout, the fireproofing, the aesthetics, and even whether some parts of the city should be radically redesigned.
And there was a lot of ambition. Some civic leaders imagined a grand new San Francisco with wide boulevards and monumental architecture, almost a kind of American Paris. But ambitions ran into reality pretty fast. Property rights, financing, speed, and the need to get people back to work.
That tension between ideal plans and practical rebuilding is one of the central themes of the reconstruction. On paper, it's easy to redraw a city. In real life, you have to deal with businesses that need reopening, families that need housing, and utility systems that have to function before anything else can happen.
A big part of the rebuilding focused on infrastructure. Water, gas, transportation and building standards all had to be addressed. The city learned painful lessons about fire-resistant construction and the vulnerability of essential systems.
And those lessons mattered far beyond San Francisco. The 1906 disaster influenced earthquake research, urban planning, and emergency preparedness across the United States. It became a major reference point for how cities think about seismic risk.
There's also the scientific importance. One of the most famous scientific investigations after the earthquake was by geologist Henry Fielding Reid, who studied the fault movement and developed the elastic rebound theory. That theory helped explain how stress builds up along faults and is released in earthquakes.
That's huge. Reid's work gave scientists a framework for understanding earthquakes as part of a broader process of strain and release. In other words, the ground isn't just randomly shaking. It's storing energy and then snapping into a new configuration.
And that kind of scientific insight came directly from observing real damage, displacement, and fault rupture. The 1906 event was a tragic natural experiment, but it advanced geophysics in a major way.
One thing listeners may not know is that the earthquake rupture extended for a very long distance along the fault, with a surface rupture visible in places north and south of San Francisco. That evidence helped scientists map the fault and understand the scale of the event.
Meanwhile, for ordinary people, the immediate concern was survival. Food, water, shelter, family members, lost records, lost jobs. In some cases, entire business districts were erased, and insurance claims became a huge issue in the recovery.
Insurance is such an important part of the reconstruction story. Businesses and property owners depended on payouts, but the claims process was complicated, and some insurers resisted or disputed losses. That financial side shaped who could rebuild quickly and who couldn't.
And rebuilding was uneven. Some neighborhoods and businesses recovered faster than others. Downtown commercial areas especially were a priority because San Francisco was a port city and a financial center. Getting commerce going again was essential.
There was also a public relations battle. San Francisco leaders were eager to project confidence, both to residents and to the rest of the country. They wanted people to know the city was still viable, still attractive, still worth investing in.
That optimism helped. Within a few years, the city was visibly rebounding. New buildings went up, streets reopened, and the city hosted the Panama Pacific International Exposition in 1915, which was basically a giant celebration of San Francisco's recovery.
The 1915 exposition is such a symbolic payoff. Less than a decade after the earthquake and fire, San Francisco staged a World's Fair to announce, in effect, "We are back." It was a statement of civic pride and economic comeback.
And yet the reconstruction also changed the city's identity. Some of the old Victorian fabric was lost. Newer construction brought different architectural styles and building methods. So the rebuilt San Francisco was not just the old city restored, it was a transformed city.
That's an important point. Rebuilding after disaster is never just replacement, it's selection. Some things are preserved, some are modernized, some are lost forever. The city that emerged after 1906 was a product of those choices.
If we zoom out, the 1906 earthquake also helped shape modern disaster planning. It underscored the importance of redundant water systems, fire prevention, building codes, and coordinated emergency response. A lot of those ideas are standard now, but in 1906 they were painfully learned.
And it's worth remembering how fast the human memory of the event spread because of photography and newspaper coverage. The disaster was documented extensively, which made it a national and international story. People across the country saw the devastation and followed the recovery.
That media coverage matters because it helped create a public understanding of earthquakes as city-shaping events, not just brief tremors. The images of smoke, ruins, and refugee camps made a lasting impression.
Still, the city's story after 1906 is not only about destruction. It's about organizing relief, adapting to new information, and rebuilding in a way that allowed San Francisco to remain a major urban center. That is an impressive recovery by any measure.
Absolutely. The disaster was a tragedy, but the response showed remarkable resilience. People rebuilt homes, reopened businesses, and restored civic life. The city's reconstruction became part of San Francisco's identity, a place that has endured huge shocks and kept going.
So if you're looking for the big takeaway, I'd put it this way. The 1906 earthquake revealed how vulnerable modern cities could be, but the reconstruction showed how quickly a city can adapt when science, planning, labor, and sheer determination come together.
And that's why the event still matters today. It's not only a chapter in California history, it's a case study in disaster, recovery, engineering, urban planning, and human resilience. San Francisco's rebuilding after 1906 became a model, a warning, and a reminder all at once.
And now a word from our sponsor, Fyrebox. That's Fyrebox, the easiest way to create quizzes that grow your audience. Whether you're a marketer chasing leads, a teacher building assessments, or a creator who wants more engaged subscribers, Fyrebox lets you launch a conversion-ready quiz in minutes. No code, no designers, no waiting. Try it free at fyrebox.com. Welcome back. You just heard the story. Now let's see what's stuck. Coming up, a few quick questions straight from what we just covered. 4 options each. I'll give you a few seconds to think before each answer. Ready? Here we go. Question 1. At about what time did the 1906 San Francisco earthquake occur? A. 5:12 a.m. B. Noon. C. 9:45 p.m. D. 7 a.m. The correct answer is A. 5:12 a.m. Question 2. Which fault was responsible for the earthquake? A. The San Andreas Fault. B. The Hayward Fault. C. The Cascadia Subduction Zone. D. The New Madrid Seismic Zone. The correct answer is A. The San Andreas Fault. Question 3. What was one major reason the fires after the earthquake became so destructive? A. Broken gas mains and damaged water lines. B. A volcanic eruption. C. A giant tidal wave. D. A blizzard that spread embers. The correct answer is A. Broken gas mains and damaged water lines. Question 4. About how many people were commonly cited as having died in the disaster? A. Around 3,000. B. Around 300. C. Around 30,000. D. Around 300,000. The correct answer is A. Around 3,000. Question 5. Which scientific theory was developed by Henry Fielding Reid after studying the earthquake? A. Elastic rebound theory. B. Plate drift theory. C. The Big Bang theory. D. The greenhouse effect theory. The correct answer is A. Elastic rebound theory. That's a wrap on this one. Thanks for sticking with us all the way through, quiz and all. If you liked it, hit subscribe so the next episode lands automatically. I'm Cyril, this was The Quiz Fix, and we'll be back soon with another true story worth knowing.